We are Cop Connect, a group of lifelong Reds with one vision: to connect Liverpool fans everywhere through a spirit of friendship and togetherness, to build the world's most diverse, most inclusive Liverpool fan group. Join our growing community on our Cop Connect Facebook group, on Twitter and Instagram, and our website copconnect.com. Cop Connect, the ultimate Liverpool fan experience, brought to you by Liverpool fans, for Liverpool fans. Copconnect.com.
Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Daz. I've got Steve with me, and today our special guest is the chair from Spirit of Shankly, Mr. Joe Blott. Hiya, Joe.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. That's the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you.
Really? Oh, wow.
Daz has been working on it.
Yeah, we've been trying to perfect it since February. So yeah, I think we finally nailed it. So my first question for you, I usually ask all our guests, like, when did your love affair with Liverpool start, and when was your first Anfield experience?
Yeah, thanks. It's quite poignant actually, because I sadly lost my uncle last week, but he actually took me to my first game back in 1965, I think it was. But it was an Everton game because he's an Everton fan. And I'd just gone into the love affair with Liverpool after they just won the FA Cup. And he wanted to convert me, as it was. Obviously, he wasn't very good at his job because he failed. So I probably started, I went to an odd game in the late 60s, but probably my first memories are around 1971 at the FA Cup run towards Wembley, and then after that, sort of the Kevin Keegan era is the bit I remember most, and that's when I started to go, literally every week and queuing up. So probably the late 60s, early 70s is probably the length of time.
Yeah, the good old days when we were actually winning trophies every year. Yeah, me granddad was the first one to take me in '76. So it is weird. Like a lot of people we've spoken to, a lot of the guests, it's always like their granddad to take them, never their dads. Because my dad was a rugby dad.
Okay.
Loved rugby. He couldn't stand footy. He said it was for girls.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm glad I stuck with footy. But I know.
Say nothing.
Yeah, I know. Steve, after you drink your coffee.
Hey, good morning, Joe. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Good
morning, Steve. Hi.
Yeah, I always like listening to Darren retell the story about his granddad taking him and having him on his shoulder, and listening to other people's first memories of Anfield. Obviously, as our listeners know, I didn't get to Anfield till 2015, so I've been trying to catch up ever since. And,
yeah.
I've been a fan since 1996, but it took that long for me to get over, across the pond. But, now that I've been and multiple times, now we just want to share, the history of the club and the city with as many people as possible. So we appreciate you coming on because, you have such an important role as part of the Spirit of Shankly. And so we really are interested to share your story with as many people as possible.
Thank you. Yeah, a privilege to be here, and it's a great honour to be part of a podcast like this, across the world. But also, it's a great privilege for me to be chair of Spirit of Shankly, given the history of it, the people who set it up, all those from the start who took huge risks at the beginning of the campaign, both personal and professional, and to now be the head of it, as it were now, is absolutely, as I say, an honour and a privilege.
Yeah, I don't know if we had Karen Gill on our show, and also Peter Hooton, and obviously they've both been an integral part of the Spirit of Shankly. So, and if I recall, that was really back at the end of the Hicks and Gillette era, right? That this was formed. So can you kind of give us some background on just the meetings that were held prior to establishing Spirit of Shankly?
Yeah, I'm not the best to tell that history because I was a fan of it and a fan participant as opposed to being one of the orchestrators of it. So I'm very much speaking as a fan, and being in awe of, to be honest with you, of those people who put that time in on behalf of all of us fans, really. So I mean, my first memory is going to what used to be a former boxing club. It's an arena, small arena called the Olympia, and that's where they held one of the first meetings that they had. And then did the march to Anfield from there. And I guess it was a funny position for me, because I don't know if you have this in the States, but one of the things that Thatcher brought in back in the 70s was that I worked for a local council, and she was completely opposed to, I suppose as she saw it, the loony left, and actually didn't want any officers who work for councils to be politically persuade in any way, so that they always in effect gave impartial advice. So what she did was she introduced a notion of politically restricted posts, and I was lucky in my career that I managed to climb the ladder a bit. But of course, with that then came politically restricted posts, so I couldn't actively engage often in things. So it's very often under the wire that I got involved. So that's why the likes of Peter, Nicky Alt, Steve Monaghan, Keith Colvin, Karen, and all the others who were around at that time, that's why I was in awe of them, because I could only do things from the sidelines. So I kind of probably had a similar watching brief to you guys, being part of that, but at least being this side of the pond, as it were. At least I was able to participate in the events, as opposed to being one of the architects of it. But they were important times. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to mention that I imagine that had it been difficult to be handcuffed, politically, and not really be able to express your viewpoints and participate in things that you knew were important to the club that you were a fan of. So.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I suppose you can reflect on it and say, was it political? Well, actually, it was. I think the reality was we were campaigning not only just against Hicks and Gillette, which was the obvious thing, but clearly the campaign was also about the economics of football as well, and the way football was going. The Abramoviches, and then obviously any other venture capitalists that came in, and we're still in that position now, aren't we, in terms of our club? But yeah, so yeah, on reflection, I think, could I have got more involved? And maybe I could have done, but I suppose I just made the decision at the time that it was too risky for me not to follow the guidelines as they were. So as I moved into retirement, I've just done what I want to do now, and doing, I suppose, what I've missed growing up, being an active participant, and hopefully, being part of that change making process as well. But the history of Spirit of Shankly is just phenomenal, and the national recognition that I get on behalf of Spirit of Shankly, the international recognition I get on behalf of Spirit of Shankly, just it really takes your breath away. Just the way that other football supporters groups around the world, not just Liverpool fans, really hold the union with great admiration for what they managed to achieve, not only with the Hicks and Gillette stuff, and not only with the walkouts on 77 against FSG, but also the national campaigns they did, and European campaigns. So the ticket prices, the European games last season, the 20's Plenty campaign for away tickets. As I say, it started out saying it's an honour and a privilege, and that's part of that honour and privilege that I'm kind of seen as part of that movement.
It was interesting to me and to learn from Karen and Peter that this was established really as a counterbalance to the Hicks and Gillette, and how they're driving the club. But then after they left, it transitioned into getting more involved with the community, the food banks, and as you said, being involved on the European stage with making sure that the fans have a voice at different places. So it's been interesting to see that kind of transition. But I would imagine that after Hicks and Gillette left, and then here comes another set of American owners, right? So it had to been, we did our job, but now we have to stay vigilant and make sure these next yahoos don't do the same thing, right?
Yeah, and it was again, I came a little bit after that, but it's a different kind of vigilance, wasn't it? Because they came in as saving saving our club, and rightly so. And everything they did at the time was kind of acceptable, because they started to build the main stand, and they started to invest in the team and the management as well. There was always something a little bit spiky though about it, and I don't think anyone would believe that venture capitalists would do it out of the goodness of their own heart. So there was always, when's the moment coming when we're going to have to be on our mettle, and that clearly was that walkout on 77, and with the ticket prices going up, and that was really a line in the sand. And I think, it was seen as a huge change and challenge in football then. And I wasn't an activist, but I was a season ticket holder, so I walked out on 77, and I was in the main stand, and you could see people standing up in the cop, and you sort of anticipate that people in the cop would stand up out of solidarity. I was stunned by how many people in the main stand did it as well, who traditionally with flasks and rugs across their knees, and it's for them to be up and out. And when you walked outside, there were 12 to 15,000 people. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and one clearly that the football club couldn't ignore. But just a week or two after that, the Premier League then announced the cap on away ticket prices as well. So I think they'd seen that when fans get together and become a movement, then they're a force for change. But as you alluded to before as well, in terms of community activity and all those kind of things, they're also a force for good as well. And just because we're labelled as a football fan, it doesn't change our humanity or anything else. And I think that's what people tend to forget. And when you just see us as customers, which is what FSG was starting to do at the time, standing up and being counted just shows that it's a lifelong thing. You're not a customer. You're not. If you can't get a ticket for Anfield, you're not going to go to Goodison, are you? Because you're a Liverpool fan. And I think that started to hit home with them then, and I think that's when they really started to invest in the engagement with fans then as well.
Do you think, because you have the walkout, then you have the trademark, you had the furlough, so all these instances where the Spirit of Shankly has really been an instigator of getting the fans' voice out back to the club, and over here we're thinking, maybe they should be consulted before they do these decisions, and then not having to go back and then just be bad publicity or bad PR. And we thought that when Peter Moore became CEO, there would be a closer relationship between Spirit of Shankly, the fans, and the executive board. But it seemed like even when he was there, he had to do a couple mea culpas, and you're just like, this should have been discussed before, and just. They're smart people. There had to have been some kind of, case studies or, a beta test to see what the fans would think before they do some of these things. And we're just, Darren and I would just sit here and go, that didn't make sense to do it that way, right?
No, you're right. I mean, I guess I don't want to be too critical of either individuals or the club per se, but you're right in terms of your interpretation that had they at least discussed it with us, they may have still gone ahead with either the trademarking or the furlough, but they would have got a sense of what it was about. And I think that's the naivety. I think that they saw it again. Both issues were very much about just being business led, and not seeing the wider impact of any of those discussions. And I think the trademark was classic because. On the back of the European Cup, they said that in Spain, in Madrid, they said they lost so much money because of counterfeit goods. Well, yeah, we all understand that. We don't want counterfeit goods around. But, the local traders in Liverpool, the hat scarf or a badge, the Transalpinos, the other groups that are around, they're not changing or putting out a football kit that's been manufactured in somewhere and selling it. These are hard earning men and women who just want to do something different and capitalise on the club's and the fans' uniqueness. And it was, deeply, sort of ironic that that's what the club wants to do in terms of its, this means more and all those kind of fan culture things. They're fostering the Jamie Webster boss nights and stuff like that, which is fantastic. But you can't just turn it on and turn it off. And that's what we said about in particular, the trademarking one was that, this was not just a trademarking of Liverpool Football Club. You can get that, of course. That needs to be trademarked. It's what the club own. But they certainly don't own Liverpool, which is behind your head there. Liverpool's a city, it's a place, it's where I live, it's where I come from, it's where you want to come to. No one can own that. The only people who can own that are the people who live here, or the people who have lived here, or been part of it. And I think that was the daft thing. I mean, if you had that conversation, you'd automatically think, we can't do this, can we? But as you quite rightly said, the conversation didn't take place, and they just saw it as purely they'd lost money through counterfeiting, and they thought, what's the way around this? And didn't see the fallout that was going to come. And let's be honest as well. I mean, some of the stall holders and some of the guys who do put these t-shirts together, they're not soft. And they together with us, when you put us collectively together, the people who we can influence is incredible. And I think that's where the club fell down. And then similarly with the furlough issue, I think, that when that happened on the Friday, it was a very difficult weekend because I think everyone was desperate for a viewpoint from Spirit of Shankly. And I think our view was, well, let's ask the club some serious questions first, which basically, again, reflecting what you said, the questions that we asked were probably the questions we expected them to answer. And I think once they'd been through them, it was almost a Damascus change on the Monday. And my phone was red hot, speaking to journalists on the one hand, putting the phone down. The club were on the phone to me, and then they said, "That's fantastic, thank you. Can we come back to you in a bit?" And it was literally 7 hours of just constant being on the telephone. And when they contacted me, I think it was 6:10 in the evening, to say that they'd reversed the decision. I was stunned, but equally relieved that the club had seen sense, but B, had begun to look after its employees. And you mentioned at the early on, it's not just about support. I think that's the difference with being a union, because we actually do care about people who not only support our club but actually work for it as well.
It's one of the things that we've given FSG credit is that when they've been asked to reverse decisions, they've been fairly quick about it, and they've publicly apologized and reached out to Spirit of Shankly and the other supporters, said, okay, we recognize that this is not the best way to do these things. We made a mistake. Not a lot of owners would throw their hands up in the air and accept the responsibility. So we do give them that credit. I was just kind of remembering that, I'm the president of the supporters club here. So, we always have this struggle every year when we do our membership packets and trying to get like our scarves made and shirts, and we have to go back through the club to get it approved. And right now, for some reason, I don't want to say some reason, but this season, we can't have YNWA on our scarves. You can't have "You'll Never Walk Alone" on them. And I understand from their viewpoint, but also, we're not making profits off these scarves. We're trying to promote the club, obviously. And so we always have this internal struggle thinking, go find the pirated shirts and go after those people. Don't come up after the supporters clubs who are trying to expand the fan base, and we're not making money. We're just covering cost, and whatever profits we make we give to the Liverpool Foundation and things like that. So it's a battle every season, and it seems like it's getting more and more stringent with the copyrights and things like that. So I just want to kind of just throw that in. It's not easy. I see their global viewpoint of it, but we feel like at the supporters club level we should be able to be creative and bring more people in there. there's gonna. I know you guys are very involved with the food banks there, and in the community. So that seems, and some other programs, but that seems to have grown every year that you guys have been involved in doing that.
Yeah, I mean, fan supporting food banks. If it wasn't important then, it's certainly important now during the pandemic. And it's even more important now because we haven't got match days. So those match day collections that used to take place, and they were collecting at Anfield and Goodison, 45% of the North Liverpool food bank. So that it's incredibly important that we do again reflect not only Liverpool Football Club supporters and indeed Everton supporters, but it's important that we give something back to the community, and we've always put that forward towards the football club and saying that Anfield Stadium and the football club, and similarly Everton and Walton, they are anchors to that very, very poor area. You've both been to it and you both know what it's like, and L4 doesn't have an identity apart from Saturday afternoon or whatever day the game's played, and it's really important that we all reflect on that. And I think me as a match going fan who lives not far away, probably only about 3 miles away, but at the same time, I don't live in that area, so when I go and just park my car there and take up someone's space, and then I walk down their roads, it's about me being responsible, and it's not my place to drop litter. It's not my place to urinate in the streets as we know people have done in the past and stuff like that. It's about us all taking responsibility. And again, that's where a partnership can take place between a football club and fan supporters groups such as ourselves, who can influence. And, clearly with us working with local councillors, and, you mentioned a couple of Spirit of Shankly committee members before, but, a real stalwart is Ian Byrne, who's, was a councillor, but is now, Merseyside, in fact, my MP, so Member of Parliament for West Derby. So the level of influence he can have on communities is incredible. And it was him and Dave Kelly who set up Fans Supporting Food Banks 5 years ago. And, long may it be so, whilst it's needed. We wish it wasn't needed, but it's about making sure that we all fully participate in that. And it's about doing something different sometimes as well. So hence when the pandemic started, we knew the food banks were continuing, but we felt as a union that they need to do something slightly different for those people who were housebound in particular, who had to self-isolate, who couldn't get out to the shops. So that's when we went into partnership with a local supermarket here, and we've been doing food drops every week since March the 26th to houses, and we've dropped over 3,000 bags of food, and we've been delighted with donations that we give, but we actually believe that that's what union subs are for. The union subs aren't just to be there and not used, or only be used for campaigns for supporter-based issues. They're also to be used for the wider good, and that plus the mental health work, the work around dementia, is critically important. And I think it's about. I think that's why the union has evolved in that way. It's not just a campaigning union against any daft ideas that the club has. It sees itself as having a position in the community and a position of influence. And if we can influence the inner workings of Liverpool Football Club for the greater good, then that's got to be a real positive.
It seems like this current squad has a great relationship with the community. I don't know if it's just Klopp's presence, in the last 5 years, how he's changed the dynamic of the players, being more active. Because I don't remember previous coaches and teams being as out into the community. Maybe, I just didn't pay attention at that time. But it seems like, really Klopp has made that a focus of his to really give back to the community. Obviously, he's social. He likes the social programs in nature anyway, but it seems like he really takes it to another extreme. Yeah,
totally agree with that. I think Klopp's influence is there to be seen. I think, to be fair, I do think Peter Moore had an impact on that and in the internal workings of the club. I think that's changed the focus of the foundation. The foundation was quite insular as well in terms of what it did. That's opened itself out now really into far more of community-based activities. But yeah, I think, you know, the working class ethos of Klopp, you've seen it in the players he's brought in. You know, the players he's brought in have got principles, they've got morals, they've got values. You can hear that in Andy Robbo. You can see it every week in Jordan Henderson. And some of the other star players that are around, you know, you can see what they do. And we know that players have done things. They don't want any credit for it. When the Merseyside PPE hub was set up, you know, one of our superstar players, you know, contributed a vast amount of food towards that distribution and support of the PPE exercise. And I don't think that would have happened in previous times. Some might have done, but I just think somehow or other, and I think it is Klopp, he's found the voice to tap into that. He's embraced the Scouse culture, and he has imparted that into his squad, and clearly the squad he pulls together. I'm absolutely convinced that we you know, there's all the big clamour, isn't it? You know, can we get Mbappe, etc. Klopp wouldn't have Mbappe if he didn't buy into the culture. Simple as. He'd rather have me playing for him and try and make a footballer out of me, just because he'd rather the right person as opposed to the right player. And I think that's the combination. The team members now are the right person and the right player for the football club, and I think that's why he takes an inordinate amount of time to pick the right ones. And yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that we're reaping the benefits as a union of being the club moving closer to us and not us moving closer to the club. Which is a massive difference, because we don't want to be inside the club because we want to hold the club to account, but we do want to have the position to be in part of the club. So that, as you know, go back to what you said, you know, to have the conversation about furlough or trademark or whatever else it is that they might want to consider. We don't have to be part of the club, but they recognise us now as being a go-to organisation to get some kind of level and litmus test of what it will be like if we introduce this, whatever it might be. And I think that's the position we've got ourselves into, and that's the influencing we can do. But they also know that in the way that Klopp has got that as a working class sort of roots basis, we're still working class roots as well. So we'll challenge the club when we need to, and you guys need to rest assured that, you know, we would, just because it seems as though that at this moment in time that there's a good relationship with the club, that doesn't mean to say that we're not going to have fallouts in the future, and we will. And you know, the good thing is they recognise that, but equally they also have the guts now to have a conversation with us.
Yeah, I mean, that was very evident for the furlough scheme. You know, we'd just got won the Champions League and the World Club Cup, and so everything was harmonious. But as soon as there's an issue, you know, Spirit of Shankly was there up front and to make sure that, you know, there was the voices were going to be heard on that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, that it could be as great a relationship as you want, but I think that is very symbiotic now, where I think they know that they have that voice and that can persuade opinion at the club. So, Daz? Sorry,
Joe,
I dominated.
Oh no, you're all right. I like listening anyway.
I talk too much. Sorry, mate.
So what's the process like with the club? Do you have like monthly meetings with them, or is it just by case, where you say, you know, you're out of line? Like we had Howard Gale on, and he actually, you know, opened both me and Steve's eyes, you know, to the whole racism stuff. We know it's in football, but you know, he never got asked once by the club to come on board and, you know, be part of, like, to get racism out. And he was a little pissed. And we were kind of like, you know, taken aback by that. I don't understand why the club wouldn't ask somebody like Howard. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think if it can I also do some inward reflection. I don't think the union's fantastic on equality and diversity issues sometimes, something that we're working on ourselves. And yeah, I think we get it, but I don't think we always know exactly what to do. So, during Black Lives Matter, for example, we did a lot of tweets out, but we thought, what should we do? What is the right way of doing this, or what's the wrong way? Because we don't want to be seen to be influenced. But we are a collective at this moment in time of 13 white men and women, and we can't reflect that diversity, and we need to. So it's something that we're currently working on to improve that. And even if that's not committee members, but just to have the right people involved who can educate us as well, for us to educate others. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think if we're reflecting on that, then the football club quite rightly should do. And beggars belief really as to why they haven't gone in for some kind of ambassadorial role. Never mind just having a conversation with the likes of Howard and others. But we saw it. To be honest, we saw it a few weeks ago, didn't we, with the women's football team as well? That they just seem to be left adrift and cut adrift. And again, it's just now Susan Black, who is one of the presidents of the club. She now has taken responsibility for women's football, but it took a relegation and a bit of a hounding for her to do that. And it seems.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we did a podcast earlier in the spring with an ex Liverpool women's player. That happens to lives in my neighborhood, and so we got her on, and she was able to expound a lot about the situation, and we were very surprised on just the circumstances that they had to play under. The pitch they had to play, and the lack of the access to the training facilities where even the academy was able to do it. So we're very happy to see that they've taken, a more of a interest in trying to bring that club back. I mean, it's embarrassing, right, to be relegated, and and then go through multiple coaches every season. So we're very happy that the Anfield Wrap has started giving more publicity to the women's team. A lot of the Facebook groups here in the United States they're popping up, and they're making sure that when the men's team plays and they have a lineup, then the women's team is playing, they're going to put the lineup out. So I think everybody understands that, hey, we all need to help out and things like that. I wanted to circle around to Howard Gale, because what I read on that, because you see these ambassadors going around the world on behalf of Liverpool, and in one of the things that I read, that he was, when the Suarez situation came out, he didn't follow the company line on that. He was against Suarez, where the club was with Suarez. Yeah. So when he came out publicly and was against the club's perspective, they kind of, allowed him to drift away, right? And but to further that, when the club came back and said, "Hey, we were wrong about this situation. We should never have done this," they still have not reached out back to Howard, and I think that's where a lot of the bitterness comes from. Because who else would be the person to be able to start an initiative like that? Because he has his own initiatives that he's done outside of the club that have been very successful about racism in sports. So I just wanted to kind of give some background on that, for people that don't, are kind of wondering why that is. But I think that's, something that can be improved as well.
I would agree. I'm not sure I covered the full points because of the question then, Steve, was it?
No, there wasn't a question. I was just adding to the Howard Gale conversation, what I've learned since we've spoken to him about that whole situation, and because he wants to be part of the club, obviously. And, he's such a well-spoken person and well-liked. It's just,
yeah, he didn't mince words on our podcast episode. He went all out.
Good. Good.
You know, which is great. You know, like my missus was like, "Do we need to edit like some of this stuff?" I was like, "No, what he said is staying." You know, even though people might be shocked by it, I'd rather him tell his side and truthfully than trying to, you know, kind of block it out just because maybe a couple of people might get offended by some words he said. But it's honesty. You know, that's what we want on this podcast. Just be honest. And I do feel how Liverpool FC have treated Howard is pretty bad. You know. Like you said as well, how can you know 10 white fellas talk about like racism when they really don't understand it, you know, as a white person? So yeah, that boggles my mind as well. But I've got another question for you too. What do you think? Because it kind of pisses me off a little bit is what they're doing with the 96 and the Flames. They're putting on Nike footballs now. I think that's kind of a disgrace for me. You know, I understand on the shirt, but on footies and everything else, I don't get it.
No, 100% with you there. And as a union, we're opposed to that. I mean, back in July, was it when it first came about? You know, it was seen as we approached the club, and it was seen then as a mistake by Nike. I think the full story was something like that. You know, they'd handed over their kind of trademark badges and stuff like that, and Nike should have used them sparingly, and you know they didn't. Whoever it was, whether it was deliberate or by accident, as you said, put it on a football, which is just beggars belief to think that anyone would ever do that. But I suppose that's part of, you know, the marketing bunch at Nike probably don't get football. They're just doing their marketing bit and just saw it as a badge and put it on. It's, you know, that's it. So, you know, give them the benefit of the doubt if there is one. But to do it again at the weekend and sell them in London was shocking because, you know, we understood that the manufacture of the balls had been stopped and that none of the footballs would then be sold. So whether they had to be melted down or just binned or whatever else, then we thought that had been done. To be fair, I had a long conversation with the club yesterday about it, and they were mortified by what had happened because that was their understanding as well. Now, they might not be telling the truth, but I actually believe them. And I believe them because the individual I was talking to does get the 96 and has worked really closely with the families. And actually, he got an absolute earful on Saturday from some of the family members from the 96. And it kind of destroyed his own personal credibility, which he'd built up by doing stuff with the family members. And I think it hurt him to the core, really. Now, there should have been a statement put out by Nike because it does not appear at this moment in time to be Liverpool's fault. It seems to be a Nike issuing fault. But either way, they should have done it. And we tweeted about it yesterday, but we held back until that statement went out. Now, I've not seen anything that's gone out as yet. I don't know if you guys have.
No.
But, you know, certainly by close of play today, I'll be following it up to see what's happened to it because we need once and for all that Hillsborough flame will never be used other than for a commemoration of the 96 full stop.
Yeah, because I actually saw it online. Somebody had taken, you know, a picture of football, and it was in London as well, and it was all over the internet. And you know, I just couldn't believe it. Like, obviously, like Nike don't get it, like you said. You know, they're just thinking, oh, let's get these footballs sold. You know, but it's more than that. But you know,
absolutely,
it's a big sports brand, and like I've always liked me Adidas, obviously. I wish we would go back. You know, Nike for me just doesn't sit right for some reason. You know, yeah, they are all over the world, and I actually thought once, Nike did come in, that the shirt prices would actually go down a bit, but they've gone up. Like it's and let's go back to all the people that make the t-shirts as well. A lot of people can't afford a 90 quid jersey. They can afford a 20 quid t-shirt.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sit right with me. And now with the 96 Flame, I'm done. I don't think I've ever bought a Nike shirt anyway, and I won't ever again.
No, I would agree. And as I say, you can give people benefits of doubt, but I'm not being when you buy into an organisation like that, you're not just buying a 2-bit organisation that makes t-shirts or trainees or whatever. This is buying into the culture of a worldwide organisation. So, the first thing you do is you have someone based in Liverpool who's your Nike representative who literally sits in Anfield for the first 12 months just to get things right. It's not rocket science, is it? But clearly they've not done that. But it comes back to your point before. Sorry, that was the point I did miss. Sorry, you said do we meet with the club regularly? Well, yeah, we do. I mean, Tony Barrett is our key link, and Tony's our sort of go-to person. I speak to him some weeks every day, not necessarily issue based, but just general understanding of things that are going on, and it's a good way just to get the club's view on things. It's a good way for him to get fan view on things. He can feed that back into the club, and I can listen to what their response is, and we can feed that back to our committee. We're then part of fan forums as well. So Spirit of Shankly have got a number of places on the existing fan forum network that's only set up so that. We talked about equality and diversity before. There's one about that. There's one about ticket pricing. There's one about access to the stadium. So we've got a couple of seats on those with other fans. What we did have as well, we had an informal meeting with Peter Moore once a month, which was again an opportunity to just discuss things in general about where they were heading or things we'd picked up. We could also escalate things to him as well if we felt that things weren't happening. We haven't had that yet with Billy Hogan, but then of course we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we don't know whether he'll still do that. But it was useful. But I think it probably needs to be a little bit more formal with him, given I think he's probably less engaged. I think because I think that was what Peter Moore did. He wanted to engage all the time. Which couldn't be both a positive and a negative, but I think Billy's more business focused. So I think I think we'll have a decent relationship with him, but I think it'll be on a different level. But what else we do though is that we clearly pick up casework as well. So if one of your season tickets has got a problem, or you can't get into the stadium because you've allegedly thrown a sausage roll at somebody or something like that, we're able to work through that with individual fans and groups of fans. So they would come on a case-by-case basis. So we actually know, obviously, a lot of people inside the club as well. So we have the formal liaisons with the likes of Tony, with the likes of Susan Black and Peter Moore, as was, and hopefully Billy Hogan. But then clearly in terms of further down the chain as well. And that's really important for me. I mean, I don't know what you guys do, but I worked in public sector for donkey's years. So, big, huge organisations. There was always changes at the top and always changes at the bottom, but the middle bit never moved because they always protected themselves. So a bit like a permafrost in an organisation, really, that you could never sort of break through. And there's some of that has been around in the club that sort of, when you put a proposal, you go, oh no, we can't do that. And even if it's a good idea and the bottom pushing up or the top pushing down, there's always a reason why you can't. Oh no, the system doesn't work, or that'd be too hard on a Saturday afternoon to do that. Or I think we're starting to make inroads into that now, saying, "Oh, hang on, there's a change here." And I think that's part of them realising that the football clubs had to change in order to reflect what's really around. And I think one of the big changes that's happened over recent months is is the engagement around the coronavirus. Our first meeting with the club, believe it or not, was the pre-Bournemouth game, which was, again, the Saturday before the Madrid infamous game. So what was that, March the 6th, something like that? And we've been in constant dialogue with them ever since. And we're the organisation they come to around getting fans back into the ground and everything else, which has been enlightening, really, that they would, I suppose, listen to, but also respect our views in terms of how that can happen. Again, there's still challenges that might have to come about if fans are ever allowed back in, which I only hope that's sooner rather than later. How much does a ticket cost? Who gets it? What's the process? Is it a ballot? Is it all members? Is it all season ticket holders? A combination? There's things to iron out, but I think them having a conversation with us about trying to get to a position of could this on a piece of paper work in reality? We've been able to shape that, which I know, speaking to colleagues nationally, they haven't had that conversation. The other clubs have just said, this is how we're going to do it. Live with it. It's going to be X amount of pound when you come through the door. You're all going to have to use your mobile phones to get in. End of story. And that's it. And they just have to live with that. Now, at least we're having a conversation. Now, at some point, Liverpool are going to have to make a decision and provide some leadership. And it might not be all that we really wanted, but at least we've had the conversation. I think that comes back, full circle to what you set out, really, is that them having a conversation with us at least leads them to a decision-making process. It might not be a decision that we all like, but we're part of the process, which is incredibly important. And again, in a football sense, a supporter in the past was just someone who put money on the turnstile. So to have a voice, such a huge organisation is incredibly powerful. But also, as I said before, an honour for me to be the person doing that.
Joe, as we start winding down our conversation, can you kind of let us know how people from around the world can be involved? We realize that you're down there in Liverpool, being our advocate of the fans. But can we join Spirit of Shankly from being internationally located? And how do we do that if we can?
Yeah, a number of ways. I mean, firstly to say that, clearly I or the union can't represent every single supporter view. Hopefully we get some kind of consensus view, but we're, in a way that we hold the club to account, I want fans to hold us to account as well. And that if we're not doing things the right way, then I'd like to be told about it and be in a position to understand that. But in terms of membership, anyone can join online. They can go to our website. spiritofshankly.com. We've just improved, I hope. Maybe you can tell us our website. We just spent a lot of time. Two of the guys have just been amazing in terms of the way they've turned it around, and that's £10 to join, and that's an annual payment. Nothing else out of that after that, but we'll obviously represent you in any issues that you have with the football club. But to be honest with you, we'd also represent someone who didn't pay, because it's not about a payment. It's a subscription, obviously, but it's not about this is the only way you get support. The benefits that people get, well, obviously the backing of us, but also there's some discounts we can give in terms of coach travel, if ever allowed it back into the game again. But also we have got access to a number of branches around the world as well. And if somebody wanted to set up a Spirit of Shankly branch, as it were, in any country, we'd be more than happy to work with them on that to try and help get that sorted. The more voices that we've got across the world, particularly as we're a global organisation now, it's easy for us to tap into our local network here. But as I said, I could probably get the views of 1,000 or so people now very quickly from the city, but that wouldn't necessarily reflect the views of you guys in America, who've got just an equal right to have a say on the football club as they have. And the more we can do that, the better. So we've got about 1,300 paid up members at the moment, about 35,000 followers on Twitter and Facebook. If we could improve the membership in any way, shape or form, we'd be able to do that. And what we use the money for then is to support the mental health work, to support the food banks, to support the food drops, to improve the community around L4 and save a little bit. So next time that the club challenges or need challenging, we'll have a war chest to ensure that we don't lose.
Yeah, we'll definitely put the link to the memberships on our website and attach it to the episode when we do publish it. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that information, because I looked at the website and it is vastly improved from when it was before. So those guys are doing a great job. But then I was amazed at just the low cost of the membership, and knowing what that money is going for in the local community. It is a way for the international members to be involved and to support those kind of initiatives that you guys are doing. So yeah, that's great news.
Thank you.
Oh, the kiddos in here.
Great stuff. That's what's great about Zoom and podcast, isn't it? You can't keep them away.
No, well, we have 4 girls, so it's hard to keep four of them away. But Joe, really appreciate you taking the time to come on. And
pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Like I've
flattered
said,
to be invited.
Like I said, me and Steve. Me and Steve just want to, tell the story of Liverpool Football Club, but not just the football club, but the community as well, because got to all stick together, especially in these crazy times that, we're going through. So defo appreciate it.
Thanks, Daz. Appreciate it. And thanks, Steve. Yeah, as again, thanks for your time and thanks for you for investing your time in giving us a voice across the world. It's, I hope we've made the best use of it. More than happy to come back at any time in the future that you think it would be useful, and, privileged to be on your show.
Yeah, we appreciate your time, Joe, and, some of the insights that you've given us, because, from over here, we can only, we have a different perspective of what's going on. So it's always nice to hear what's going on the ground there and kind of what's going, that there's meetings being held behind the scenes. So we appreciate the effort that you're doing and keeping the club honest too on some of the stuff that goes on. So yeah, we look forward to keeping in touch with you and try to get as many of our listeners and viewers to get a membership this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Have a good day, guys.
You too. Cheers, Joe.
Thanks very much. All the best.
Cheers,
Bye now.
Joe. Bye.